Hey, all y'all. I'm Dr. Brett Brimhall. Super excited for you guys to be here tonight. I love these Wednesday wellnesses. It's something we've been doing for a long time now, and just so grateful to have people that are going to come on here with us and to share their expertise. And so appreciate you each being here. We have a rare treat, but we have Dr. Nancy Bryan on with us. If you haven't met her, you're just an absolute treat. Like she has just a wealth of information and knowledge. But beyond that, she has just an amazing heart and a desire to empower and lift others and to inspire them on how to be healthy and to stay healthy. Um, so Nancy, like just to do it justice, like with your background as a pharmacist and just the world you've come from, if you can just kind of give us a recap of your journey in to where you are today. Like, what led you here, what your background has been, just a different level of expertise to give people a perspective of who you are and the knowledge that you bring, please.
Oh, well, thank you so much. First and foremost, my career didn't start actually heading straight to pharmacy school. I actually started with a master's in molecular biochemistry because I was always that kid that was curious, and it just spoke to me. And so I loved it, and my goal always was to be a physician. And so I actually was at medical school at Michigan State and unfortunately had some real health issues that happened. And as a result, they told me I was not going to make it through their program. And the best thing for me to do would be to just head over to the pharmacy school because I could get in and out of there quickly. And so I turned around and made the decision that, for my health, that was probably a good decision. Went to pharmacy school. And early on, my very favorite class was pharmacognosy. They had this great big greenhouse with plants everywhere, and we had to learn all the medicinal values in plants. Sadly, today, guess what? Pharmacy schools don't even have the class anymore, I don't think. They've actually asked me to come and teach it in the master's program. I'm like, why is this still not taught? But the answer is because pharmaceuticals took over so much because they could be made consistently, and I saw that. And I always knew that, I never was going to be the pharmacist. I always ended up being the backward pharmacist. That's my nickname. People call me that because I was out in nursing homes and saw all the medications, and I just didn't see people getting better. I'm not against medications. There's places for them. If you need an inhaler, there's places for them. But it just is not the answer for health, for restoring our health. And so that was the beginning of my journey. And by the grace of God, fast forward, it brought me to this place where I am today that I know so many of you. And I'm so grateful because my formulating background, I went on to get a PhD in pharmacology. And you know what? I'm just passionate about making things and seeing how they work, and I have the rare ability to know both the medications and the nutrients, and that's rare today because people seem to be in one camp or the other.
Yeah, I love that. And just without maybe just disclosing how many years you've been doing this, but how many years have you been involved in the health space and really look in the space of helping people get well?
Well, I had the rare opportunity when I moved to Phoenix in the early 90s to meet a gentleman by the name of Dr. Libby. And Dr. Libby had been part of the team that really knew about vitamin C and knew a lot about just all the original research that was done with everything revolved around vitamin C research in the 50s and 60s, and he was really good in the B vitamin range. And back then, a lot of people didn't know much about that, and that really intrigued me. So I ended up meeting up with him and learning a lot about where that molecular biochemistry came into play and knowing how B vitamins really enhanced our bodies, and then trying to figure out what was going to be the best means of getting some of these nutrients to us. And you know what? It just was a perpetual search, and that led to me two things. I really got tired of taking care of people. I know that sounds terrible, but I got to a point where they weren't listening. And so I started really delving into animals, and that really helped me a lot. My daughter's a veterinarian, and it really helped me to see a lot of things when I would see what was going on in animals and my love for them. And it brought me back to people, thankfully, because then I saw such a need for it with helping people understand what nutrients. It all started with vitamins and supplements in the 50s and 60s. But then I started seeing that there were more and more things that were going to be available to us as technology grew. And that's really where we are today, that I'm so excited to have that path.
Yeah, and just from perspective, guys, let me give you the uniqueness of that background too. And, you know, and if some of you are like this, where you thought life was going to take you a certain direction, you've ended up somewhere else, many times it's for the better, but we have to kind of look at that way. And so, Nancy, I'm grateful that you had that health crisis then that led you to where you are here, because that makes a big difference in what we can do, right? And the impact you have, not only from what your knowledge is, but also your personal experience. And to have both the background in clinically working with people, but also on the research and the actual formulation side. That's a very unique perspective that you have. So thank you for being here. Now, you know, I chatted before about this, but like we want to talk to you guys tonight a lot about specifically, you know, bone health, women's health, as it relates to what happens a lot of times later in life. Like, unfortunately, in the United States, we have more bone problems than almost any other country in the world, right? We consume the most amount of dairy as anybody else in the world, yet we have the most bone problems. So it must not just be a calcium issue, if that's the case. So Nancy, I know you have a really unique perspective on this, and I'd love to kind of have you kind of tie into like why we are where we are and what the solution is for people to work on this, both from what they should not do to what they should do.
Oh, that's such a great question. And to your point, you know what? One of the earliest things I did, as I spoke of Dr. Libby with the B12 and the B vitamins, that's when I started developing a. All
right. So let me kind of recap a couple of things that we are going to bring this up to speed with you guys. One of the big things that happen with people that we learn about in a lot of life is people develop, you know, bone loss. Okay. And when that happens, that a lot of people with age that will happen. Now, there's reasons why that takes place. There's things you got to kind of avoid that will cause bone mineral loss, and there's things that you need to add in. And unfortunately, in this day and age, most things that people are taught when they go into a position when it comes to improve their bone density.
I have to apologize. I will tell you this up front. Technology is not my mastery, okay?
So, but we're grateful you're back. So to kind of bring it back to speed, we're talking about, you know, bone mineral density, and then like you're kind of bringing it to speed, like what are things we got to avoid, what are things we need to do, because if we do the current thing we've been taught to do, we're going to end up with a lot of bone loss down the road. Right. I know it's a much bigger thing than just bone loss. So,
well, you and I talked earlier, and one of the biggest things that I've been a huge student of is something called our circadian rhythm. And that has to do with a lot of our bodily functions. It's actually kind of the chief override in our body, sort of like my computer was doing on me right now. And it takes a lot of different things to make that work. And that has to do with when we're wakeful, when we're sleeping, our hormone levels, so many bodily functions. And I've been studying that for many years. And it started with my going through cancer treatments and having bone loss and wanting to have a good bone product, and there just weren't any. And so I ended up developing a bone product here in town, and that taught me so much during that time frame. And in that process is when I started realizing through all of my molecular biochemistry, our bones really truly are our bank. And I never thought of them that way before. We think in our medical system today about all the systems being this for this and this for this and this for this. But our bones really truly are our bank for distributing out all the different things that our body needs. So that means in particular things like your calcium being able to go out to your heart, your calcium going out to your blood vessels and your muscles and your brain, other different minerals that have to go to those things to keep them operating the best that they can be. And so when you start looking at the body as our bones being our bank, you understand as we get older, as they start getting brittle and they're not working, why that's such a big deal. And so for me, it's always been about helping people to understand how that process works to begin with. And back to your point about us having the worst bones everywhere, there's a worldwide global issue with D3 deficiency. And clearly we still have sun, and that's where a good portion of it, D3, comes from, right? But that's not the issue. The issue comes in how our body is taking in nutrients and utilizing micronutrients that help unlock, because D3 is a hormone. It's not really a vitamin. And so when we're taking a look at our bones as a bank, that D3 is really important in like over 2,000 gene expressions of all of our body systems, because it's unlocking the ability for the bones to be able to either send out calcium or bring it back into the bone and keep it healthy. And so that kind of was the premise of my last research since the early 2000s. And fast forward today, we know so much more about those micronutrients now.
Now, you talked about the circadian rhythms, you talked about the bones as a bank, and you talked about vitamin D3 being a hormone. So how does that all interplay with the things that tend to happen as we age, where bone density lessens, our sleep kind of sucks, right? and we have hormone issues which relate to aging, which can be like, lack of energy, muscle mass, all of that. So how do those all fit together? And what
you know what, it comes back to, is it the egg or the chicken thing, right? So who's to know? But genetically, each individual body starts as we age breaking down. And we often talk about our cell health and activation of our cell through things like oxidative stress and taking care of stress at that cellular level. Well, that's kind of the beginning of it. And how that stress breaks down our body is dependent upon our genes, okay? But as that process happens, a big portion of it's because our gut isn't working as efficiently as it should anymore. We're not getting proper nutrients. And I think a lot of this technology and whatnot, it just adds to all the things going on to our body being affected. And the circadian rhythm is so important because during the day, that's when certain micronutrients are needed to make things happen in the day so that we're awake and we're active and we can do all the things that our bodies require during the day. And then there's other nutrients that we really require and need to be utilizing in the evening so that we have rest and relaxation. Because in the end, where sleep really comes in, if you're not getting into deep sleep, you're not repairing. You're not getting into that deep state where your body's going to be able to actually get in there and repair and rebuild. And so oftentimes when you see us not being able to get into that sleeping, or we're overdoing it with exercise, or we're overdoing it with working and stress, all of those start to make that imbalance in the cell. And as that happens, we end up having our bones get depleted. We're robbing from the bank. It's constantly taking all the calcium out to try to fix all the problems. And then you'll see things like everything from, wrinkles showing up on your skin to your muscles being tight. So many different things are taken care of by that cycle. And so it's like, which part of that cycle is breaking down? And then what do you do about it?
Oh, I love a lot of the things you said. I'm going to see if I can recap some of this, guys, because she's mentioned some terms that maybe you're not familiar with. You might have heard the term, so the circadian rhythm, the idea is there's certain things needed in the morning, there's certain things needed in the evening. So you want to be alert and awake in the morning, you want to be able to rest and reset at night. Like that's what you want. You want that cycle happening where energetic, focused. When we go to sleep, you rest, okay? Because the rest equals repair. And part of that is you need certain micronutrients, which micronutrients are the vitamins, minerals, and things that you need. That part of those are stored in your bone bank, which I love you said that. I love how you put that. And so you need those because if you don't have them, they get depleted out of those. And most people only hear about calcium. That's most of what you hear about bone. But there's a lot of other things that regulate that, like D3, which is a hormone or a messenger. And then Nancy mentioned the term activation. So activation, think of that as your systems that are supposed to be running in the background, controlling certain things like energy production and cellular stress. Because if the cell is sick, the organism becomes sick. If the organism becomes sick, we get dysfunctional, and we get dysfunctional, then it eventually can turn into disease, right? And then the last thing is death, which is obviously not a good idea either. right? So that's kind of the things that she mentioned. So what we want to do, and what we do here at LifeVantage and part of this Wellness Winners group, we want to educate people on the proper way to use micronutrients designed to work with the circadian rhythm, so we can rise in the morning and we can reset in the PM, okay? And then they have the right micronutrients, like with D3, which is a hormone, the other micronutrients you need, right? Along with resetting the natural systems of the body. Nancy mentioned multiple. She mentioned the one that controls oxidative stress, which is the cell repair. And then she mentioned also, well, she mentioned it, but energy production is one of those. And then she mentioned GI function, gut function. Like all of those are systems that have to work in the background for the micronutrient delivery. So Nancy, like I know you have a unique perspective on like you mentioned earlier, you were a formulator and developed a calcium or a bone-based product, right? And then I know you were key as part of the one that LifeVantage brought to us to have. Can you help us understand a little bit what that is, why it works differently, why it's unique, and why that's not only important for those people that want to build bone health, but just they want to be healthy in general?
Absolutely. So yes, it is important for us to have that bone health, but in so doing, you're going to correct a lot of other issues besides. So when we put together our D3 product, one of the things I love about it, because when the company came to me and we decided we were going to do this, I knew it was those micronutrients are going to help us to have the ultimate health, right? We made sure that the calcium sources, we have 6 different forms of calcium in there, because let's face it, what our body wants is God's pharmacy. It wants all the plants and the foods, right? It doesn't want one kind of calcium that's too big of a molecule to absorb. It wants you to have different kinds. And on different days, your body's going to accept different things. So we have 6 different forms of calcium in there. We have 4 different forms of magnesium in there. And the whole purpose behind that, those magnesium and some of the zinc and some of the other things are those micronutrients. They're going to carry across the gut membrane the ability to absorb some of these calciums, to be able to put it into your blood, to put it into your bones. I know that's kind of complicated, but the bottom is that, you know what, having the right things in the morning are going to be like your D vitamins or your D3 and your zinc, and some of those things are going to be what help your body take in the nutrients to keep you awake and all the fun stuff in the day. And then at nighttime, when you need to calm down, there's other things that you need to help your own melatonin. Not that taking melatonin is a bad thing, but honestly, most people shouldn't take melatonin itself every night because your body gets lazy and it won't make its own. And so I prefer our body to activate itself and make our own melatonin, because it's going to do it in a better educated way. Our body knows more. And so what we do is we put together in the PM formula and how it works in conjunction with the D3 is that your own body is going to make that chemistry balanced again. And as a result of it, you're going to have the right things in the morning, you're going to have the right things in the evening, and to be able to optimize, most importantly, all that gene production that the D3 is responsible in is now going to be able to work in many different ways. So when people think, oh, it's just D3, it has everything to do with not just your bones and your teeth. It has to do with your skin formation and how you utilize collagen, how your brain operates, how your heart works. And you know those things that we keep seeing drugs out there for, cholesterol medicine, you know how we get plaque in our blood vessels? It's because we don't have a proper calcium ratios. And so it's starting to calcify your blood vessels because the calcium is going to the wrong place. So all of those things work together. And I know it's complicated, but what I love is that we make it simple. You just take it.
You see how you can get Nancy going? She's fun. So Nancy, you said something I think that would be to bring back to light. So people hear this term of genes, right? And you talk about how vitamin D is involved in 2,000 different genes. So can you help us understand like what that means? Like what influence do we have over our genes? Why is it important just to have these micronutrients for our genes to work appropriately?
Well, for instance, when a cell, you have your cell, depending on whatever tissue and system and organs it is, it has to know what it's supposed to be doing. So it's kind of a communication thing, and those genes are going to help it expressed the proper thing. That's what nutrigenomics means. And that's what we're known for, is taking nutrients so the proper gene expression is happening so that that cell knows that it's supposed to be operating, or maybe it's so damaged it should know that it needs to die. So those are some of the things, for instance. But most importantly, the major things about taking D3 is having to do with serum calcium and serum phosphate, and keeping those chemistries straight help proper gene expression from everything from our immune system. That's the basis of our immune system working properly, is having those nutrients in the right places at the right time and the right genes happening. So it's our whole immune function. It also has a lot to do with diabetes. People don't even begin to equate bone health with diabetes, but there's a huge link between D3 hormones working and how they work and how it regulates how we utilize glucose in our digestive tract. So it goes a long way for people to start understanding. Over 2,000 gene expressions is huge because it has to do with so many different functions.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, then gene expression had a lot to do with communication. Communication and coordination of the cell working optimally. And these things like D3, micronutrients are key parts of that communication. And we all know if communication breaks down in a relationship, that's bad. If communication breaks down in a cell, and that leads to miscommunication, dysfunction leads to problems. Okay, so that's just from a simple step. So the nice thing, and I love what you said, guys, if nutrition, vitamins and minerals and activated nutrients are designed this way, you don't have to know all this stuff. You know, it's designed to influence this properly, right? That's why it's very unique and to have this perspective. So I want to kind of bring some stuff back together, Nancy, see if we can kind of rapid fire a couple things here. So what are things that people should not do that that make the bones and other parts of the body not function well, like habits, or top 5, let's say 3 to 5 things they should not do?
Well, I know this is going to sound absolutely completely unrelated, but our own emotional stress has a huge impact. So right. Number one, people have no idea. When you look at stress on a cell, we have everything from additives and foods and, toxins and technology, all the things. But if you want to know something that really affects your cells more than anything, it's emotional stress. So I start every single day in gratitude and doing 10 deep breaths, because guess what? For now, air is still free. They may find a way to start charging us, but it's still free. and you can take 10 deep breaths. And what that's going to do when you get your morning set, the first thing it's doing all night when you're doing that repair, you get a little bit of trash build up in your blood. So that breathing out is one way to get trash out that doesn't have to go through your kidneys and through your liver and through your digestive tract. So just go ahead and get those 10 deep breaths in. When you feel yourself during the day having anxiousness or depression or whatever emotion that might be grasping you, you're mad about something, take again those 10 deep breaths. They reset everything. And like I said, it's free, right? A big glass of water. You'll see me all the time like this. Huge glass of water all the time. Water keeps the blood vessels flowing. It keeps, have you ever seen a creek full of weeds and stuff and it's all thick and stuff? You want water flowing through it. That's what our blood vessels need. And when we're talking about all these nutrients and the genes expressing, all that going on, we need water. It needs to be in there. So I know those seem like 3 simple things that they shouldn't be doing. You know what? I know the very first thing in the morning, you want to have that cup of coffee. I'm not saying don't have coffee. I love coffee. I love my Axio. I love caffeine. But have that first big glass of water first so that you're giving your body something to work with before you're removing more water from the caffeine. Okay? Another thing is that, I don't care what anybody tells you. You don't have to join a gym. You don't have to have a trainer or whatever, but you have to find a way to move your body. Our bodies are meant to move. And so when you're sitting and you're idle all the time, you're just allowing things to stagnate. And it's the movements and the muscles that help create the wheel that turns all that chemistry. So find ways to move every day. It doesn't have to be huge, but just find ways to be moving. And if you can, do a few little exercises. I mean, you know what? I know it's not fun. I get up in the morning and go, oh, do I really need to do those planks again? But you know what? They matter, and that exercise makes a big difference. And you know what? Those are the things that I try to really focus on when I'm trying to help people. And then of course, you know, I love our activation products. Those are tools, just like the water, just like the breathing, just like the prayers and gratitude. Those are all part of our self being healthy physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so for me, those are the things that I think are the most important. I love having the ability to have a cellular health with our NRF1, NRF2, and NAD, being able to keep our gut healthy, utilizing pro and prebiotics, and then having the ability to give those micronutrients so we can utilize what our bones can be there for. I can tell you what I don't like, and you can criticize me. What I hate is when I'm watching television and it goes, this is the number one thing pharmacists recommend. Well, I can tell you they didn't ask me, because the majority of the things out there, there's no science behind them. They're borrowing somebody else's science. We make our own science. This is science facts, and we know exactly when we take nutrients, when we go get our raw ingredients, we know by technology what's in them. And guess what? Lots of it we give back because it's not exactly the sweet spots we're looking for. And then we do that over again when we make them, and then we send it out to be tested. Nobody else does that. So all I'm saying is, if you're going to take a product, supplementation people knew about in the 50s and 60s to try to add to something missing in your body. What we're doing is activating it to turn back on and supplying it with the things that really help that activation operate properly. So for me, that is why I'm so passionate about why I'm still with this company and doing all the things when my grandchildren would wish I just stayed there.
Well, guys, I hope you watch and re-listen to that last 5 minutes like 5 times. Because she recapped a lot of different things in different ways, but let me kind of recap a couple of things. Some of the things I was going to ask her, she answered. Number one, you know, you got to control your stressors where you can, right? And getting your nervous system in a calm state. In her case, breathing, practicing gratitude. Okay, giant. Reducing the other stressors you can where you have both what you put in your body, what you put in your mind. All right. Then is to give your body the nutrients that it needs in order to perform its function from an activation standpoint. She mentioned 3 things. She mentioned NRF2, she mentioned NRF1, and she mentioned NAD. Now, these are three specific pathways in your body that control cell communication, that improve energy and help the body control the healing response of the cells, and also a process known as autophagy, which is the cleanup crew. And then she mentioned for her digestive support, which involved prebiotics and probiotics. Now, and then the drink she mentioned was the drink for the brain, which is called Axial. Now, I tell people you got to function based on what your budget is, right? To me, a health budget is broad in the terms of what I'm looking to do, because to me, health budget ties into the things you drink, the things you drink, the things you eat, and the things that you do for your health. Now, that's either positive. So food is in that category for me. Exercise, you know, fitness is in that category for me, and even like, you know, hygiene products are in that category for me. So when you look at that budget, so always stay within your budget what it is, but replace the things that aren't working. And I love what you said, Nancy, and the pharmacists, they didn't ask, because they get a very different question. Now, I want to end this way a little bit, Nancy, because like people, like right now as a company, we've talked a lot about collagen, but how does collagen play into bone health? You know, because I know
it's so funny, because I was going to definitely bring that up before we got off here.
Yeah.
The thing that I love most is we've come out with our collagen now. Collagen is the glue. And remember we talked about D3? Collagen is very much useful in enhancing how we use that D3 to do all those functions we talked of to begin with. And guess what? Think about it like every cell being a pillow. And the stuffing in the pillow, when it's gone flat and, you know, your feathers are down or whatever, the collagen's plumping that cell back up to do all of the functions it needs to do again. And it helps all those things we just talked about to operate at their optimum. And as a result of it, I have to be careful. Both Brett and I are on the science board, so I have to be careful about what we disclose. But I'm telling you, we've got studies coming that are going to just blow people's minds in terms of what that collagen has done in terms of usefulness to the nutrients we have. It's incredible. And again, it's one more tool. And I refer to the collagen as my new superpower.
Nancy, I appreciate you so much and being here with us tonight. And guys, I want to tell you, thank you for the chat that you kind of put through here, because one of the things I tell people a lot is the most expensive supplement, the one that isn't working, because there's a cost to not having the health that you want, a cost of, the things that you want to do, the experiences you want to have. So set aside whatever that budget is for you to work on your health so you can live and experience life the way you want. Because I know with Nancy and I both, personally, this has changed our physical health and the things that we're able to do for ourselves personally and our families. But it's also had an ability for us to impact those people that we've taken an oath to work with and try to improve their health. And we do this because of what we've seen happen. And I've seen people literally save thousands of dollars on their medical expenses because their body is now activated. And so this can be life-changing for people. So we appreciate and honor you for being here. Nancy, thank you so much for your knowledge, your expertise, but especially your heart. You guys, so have a phenomenal night, and we'll catch you guys at the next week. Oh, yeah, Nancy back, but thank you again, Nancy, for everything, for being here with us. And guys, every week, Wednesday Wellness, have a safe, fun Memorial Day, and get healthy.
Thank you. So humbled to be here. Thank you.
All right, guys.